Hello and welcome to another episode of Sanity Killer Projects. Today we're going to be doing an oil change on a 2016 Honda Civic EX 2.0. There's nothing in particular special about this particular oil change. It's just a stock 2016 2.0 automatic. We're going to walk through the steps of doing the oil change and should go pretty quick and pretty smooth. So let's get started. So the first thing we're going to do is climb into the driver's side, open up the driver's side door, and on the left knee bolster there is a switch or a lever just below the steering wheel on the left hand side. You pop this up and it'll make a popping sound. The hood will be partially released. So then we're going to come around to the hood, and where the hood has split, you're going to put your fingers in down and push the lever that's down here to the right. It will release the hood, and then we'll lift the hood. Your hood prop is attached to this clip right here. Lift that out of the hook, stick it into the lock mechanism, which is up there. Set the hood down on it, and that's popping the hood. So next we'll jack up the car. Alright, so here's one of the easiest ways to jack up the car. There are multiple lifting points on these Hondas, but in this case the easiest spot to get to for how I'm going to lift this car is underneath the corner of the plastics. You'll see right in this area, right where the jack is actually at, is one of the front tow hook spots. You can actually see it better on the passenger side. There's actually a little hook built into that right there. See that? Right in there. That's the tow hook on the other side. So this one may have had a tow hook on this side at one point and it broke off. All the plastics rubbed off anyway, so it's actually exposed. But that is a frame attachment point. So I'm going to lift the car up with the jack, and then I'm going to get it high enough to put a jack stand underneath the lower control arm. I'll lift this up and then I'll show you where the jack stand's going to go. Okay, so I'm showing it from this particular angle, which is the passenger side front of the car, because from here you can see where the jack stand is going to go. Once I lower the jack down, it is going to be a little iffy because of the width of the foot on the jack stand. You need to make sure that it comes down evenly and lays across both of those arms, or fits up inside of that lower control arm. But for doing an oil change, this is the fastest, easiest way to get the car up in the air with just a jack and a jack stand. So I'm going to lower the jack down. I'm also going to leave the jack in, if you see it in the shots, because I'd rather have double, but it'll be resting on the jack stand, and the jack will be just below the height of the car once it's settled. That's how I usually like to do it. I like the jack and the jack stand in there at the same time. It's just if the jack stand slips, it gives me something to catch it on for a second to get me out of the car. So after that, we'll start working on draining the oil. The underside of the Honda Civic is not set up in a user-friendly manner. I'll explain why. There are three 10 millimeters, one right here, one right here, one in the back at the very back of the plate. There's two Phillips head screws, one right there, one right here, and then a bunch of quarter turn pop plugs right here, right here. There should be one right here, but it's missing, and one back there. That is not a common sense way to build a car to make it easy for the general public to change the oil, but it's not that difficult to get it off. It just takes time, and you need multiple different tools. A Phillips head screwdriver to get the Phillips heads out, 10 millimeter ratchet to get the bolts out, and what I like to use for the quarter turns is a putty knife. It's the easiest way to get them. You just slide them into the groove and turn them a quarter turn, and they're out. So I'm going to take this off, and then we'll show you the location of where to drain the oil. Okay, so I do want to note a couple of things before I go too far. The actual front jack location that Honda recommends is that guy right there. It's that opening between all the plastic plates. There's a flat area of steel that's attached to the frame that is actually considered their front jack point. Also, I said that there was a 10 millimeter in the middle back. That 10 millimeter actually stays in place. There's 2 quarter turns that you do with the putty knife or with the big wide screwdriver. Also, your oil pan drain location, as you come more towards the front, is on the back of this guy. This is your oil pan. This is where you drain it from. And your oil filter is more towards the front, right here. This is your oil filter. So this guy right here gets loosened up with a 17 millimeter or an 11/16. I noticed that they both fit about the same. So even though there's a slight difference between the 2 socket sizes, they'll both work. Since it's a metric car, I just did it with 17. If you have a strap wrench, that's the easiest way to get this guy off. I've already loosened the oil pan screw, so I'm going to make a bunch of noise, and I'm going to take this guy out and let it start draining. And that's that. So we'll let that drain out. I'll start working on pulling the oil filter off, and then we'll put it all back together and pull her up. So for the oil filter, I'm not going to show you how I got it off, but I had to use a strap wrench. I no longer have my small oil filter wrenches anymore because I don't have little cars like this. The only thing you do is break it loose with a strap wrench or an oil filter wrench. Bring your oil pan up to where it'll catch the filter and the oil, and as long as it's loose, unscrew it counterclockwise, and once it drops, there it goes, it'll continue to drain out. Okay, for the later model Honda Civic 2.0s, they recommend a full synthetic oil, which this is a full synthetic, in 0W20 weight. The filter that is required for this one, if you're going to use a brand version of it, is a 7317. This particular person who I'm doing this oil change for wanted a TG. It's not necessarily required. A pH will work just fine, especially since this person doesn't drive heavy miles or very often or anything that would require it to need a heavier filtration setup on it. But pH 7317, or in this case a TG, and a full synthetic 020. The reason why I have these next to each other is because I'm going to pre-fill the oil filter. Some manufacturers recommend it, some don't. I prefer to do this. I think it's a better setup when the oil filter is pre-filled. So I'm going to sit here and keep doing that, and then I'll start getting the oil filter ready to put back in place. Okay, so before I start to put the oil filter on, I'm going to put the plug back in, which is what I'm doing right now. Goes in clockwise, righty-tighty, if you like. So once the drain plug's at least started, we're going to take the oil filter out of here, and we're going to start installing it into its home location. As you can see, the oil seal is wet, because what you do after you fill it is take a little bit and make it run around the seal. The reason for that is so that it tightens up as much as it should when it goes up into the car. So I'll move this oil pan, it's going to make some noise, and then I'm going to put this guy onto the threads or the oil filter, and then we're going to start running it up. As you can see, a little bit of the oil is coming out. That's okay. I did just pre-fill it, and I'm setting it at an angle. So that's up and hand tight. Now, Fram and most manufacturers recommend that you look at the arrows that are on the side of it. Unfortunately, because of the angle that we're at right here, there isn't really a way to see the arrows. So we just basically have to pick a point and turn it 1/4 of a turn tighter so that it makes the seal bind up against the frame. So as you can see, it's we'll call that snug right there. We're gonna grab this, we're gonna turn it quarter turn. Now that's not the recommended way. There's no way to see the thing from the angle that we're at. We need to make it go quarter of the way around past snug. That's the correct way to do it. It can be done by hand like I just did it. The next thing we're going to do is tighten up the drain pan screw all the way instead of just running it down by hand. So we'll tighten this guy up like that, and this guy needs to be nice and tight, not so tight that you're going to destroy the O-ring underneath it, so don't run it down with the impact wrench or anything. So that's pretty much all it needed to be done on the underside of the car. I'm going to put this pan back on next, and then we'll fill the car up. Okay, before I completely bolt this bottom plate back up, I want you to notice there's these little metal hooks, or little plastic hooks I should say, on either side. One right there, one in the back, another one in the back over here, one right here. Those are used to help position it so that it's lined up where it's supposed to be. You need to make sure you get those all set into place. I got a couple of the quarter turns in and started so that you can see where it's got to sit, because if I didn't, it actually wanted to push back out. It naturally wants to sit a little further back. This car is obviously dragged on some stuff a few times. So from here I'm going to put in the rest of the quarter turns, the screws in the front, and then we'll go up and fill it. Okay, so here's your oil filler plug. You just unscrew it, put your oil filler funnel in, and it takes 5 quarts. This container is 5 quarts, so we'll just dump this guy in there. The only other thing I still have to do after this is drop the car off the jack, reset the oil life, and warm it up. Alright, so drop the jack and lift the car back up off of the jack stand. So I'm going to top out the suspension and get it up an inch or so. And then we'll come around back behind the wheel, slide this guy out, and we'll very lightly bring the car to the ground. Okay, so to reset your oil life light on your Honda Civic EX 2.0, we're going to hit the start button with your foot off of the gas, or I'm sorry, off of the brake. You're going to hit it once to put it in accessory mode, and then hit it twice to get it into run mode. Once it's in run mode, that will fire up the entire system. If you have the system that only has the screen up here and the other non-touchscreen next to it, everything has to be done through the steering wheel controls. In this particular case, because we have the touchscreen, everything is done through this. So we're going to hit home on the screen. You go into settings, go into vehicle, then you go into maintenance info. When you're in maintenance info, you select reset items. And it backed out of the menu for some reason. Select reset items and select oil and filter. It's asking you if you want to reset it. You say yes, and it will reset the system. Now it no longer says that the oil needs to be changed on the heads-up display, and it will no longer ask for it here. And that's pretty much it. I'm going to go ahead and start this guy up because I need to warm it up and run it, and then check the oil, and I am done. So the last thing that I'm going to show on this video about this oil change is the oil dipstick. I've actually already checked it a few times, but I just want to show you. This particular guy has a little orange tab down on the bottom of it. And oil level needs to be between the two dashes on it. That shows normal oil level. This car is at normal oil level. I've already warmed it up, and it's the temperature, and it's on level ground, which is exactly how you check the oil. Okay, so with that, I'm going to go ahead and close this hood here, which locks back into the little tang there, and drop the hood. And that's it. That's how you change the oil on a 2016 Honda Civic EX 2.0. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Like, subscribe, all the stuff that keeps us making videos. Thanks.